nationwide college admissions scandal that broke yesterday. Well, he's pleading guilty to accepting millions in bribes from parents trying to get their kids into elite schools. Now, two of those people in hot water this morning, actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. Todd Pyro joins us with the latest developments. Good morning, Todd. They're not the only parents involved in this, right?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's all you can say, Heather. You are right. Operation Varsity Blues, all anyone in the nation's talking about. Big-time schools targeted: Georgetown, Yale, Stanford, University of Texas, USC, UCLA, the FBI, describing it as a sham that strikes at the core of the college admissions process. The biggest name so far, like you said, actress Felicity Huffman, she of Desperate Housewives fame. Prosecutors allege Huffman met with a confidential witness who said he could control an SAT testing center and arrange for someone to proctor her daughter's test and correct it. And actress Lori Loughlin, check out this somewhat unfortunate clip now, talking about her daughter going to college.
I think I'm in complete denial.
Yeah?
I really am, because when I think about it too much, it will make me cry.
Really?
So I got to stop. I know.
The memes are flowing on that one. The Full House star and her husband, fashion designer Massimo Giannulli, accused of paying $500,000 in bribes for their daughters to be crew recruits at USC, even though they had never rowed before. Total of 50 people, including 9 coaches and 1 high-ranking athletics administrator, indicted. The man at the center, William Singer, pleading guilty in federal court, charged with taking $25 million, using some to bribe coaches and testing officials, and pocketing the rest.
Make no mistake, this is not a case where parents were acting in the best interests of their children. This is a case where they flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense, to cheat the system so they could set their children up for success with the best education money could buy, literally.
Huffman appeared in a federal court in L.A. on Tuesday, was released on $250,000 bond. Loughlin expected to turn herself in today, according to most reports. The Fed saying, Heather, listen to this, the investigation continues and more people could be charged.
Yeah, this is just crazy when you listen to those details. You know, getting in, you played a sport, which you didn't really play. You know, who knew what? All right, thank you so much,
No problem.
Todd. Well, fans shocked and disappointed to see celebrities like Loughlin and Huffman wrapped up in this scheme. But here's the question. Are they the first? Notre Dame professor Patrick Deneen says they're just the first to get caught because the admissions system is rigged to help the rich.
The admissions process has always had features to it that invite gaming, I think we could call it. The lion's share, which is entirely legal, but it involves assisting your children in taking the standardized tests and enrolling them in enrichment camps and all kinds of service opportunities that end up padding resumes. And for some parents, moving into school districts where your public school education is going to get you certain advantages. So we have had a system that has invited this kind of gaming, and I think what we saw today is really just the logical extension of this into illegality. But let's face it, this is simply a manifestation of what's already been the case. The wealthy and the powerful are able to game the system and ensure that their children have advantages that most Americans' children do not have.
Well, Lori Loughlin's daughter, Olivia Jade, is also apologizing this morning for a video that she posted to her 2 million YouTube followers, saying she didn't even want to go to college. She and her older sister both attend USC. So lots more to come on this story. And also more to come on this today. Paul Manafort set to be sentenced in D.C. in his second criminal case. President Trump's former campaign chairman is facing up to a decade behind bars on conspiracy charges. He, of course, pleaded guilty to those charges last year as part of a deal with special counsel Robert Mueller. Prosecutors later said that Manafort breached that deal by lying to investigators. And then last week, Manafort was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison for tax and bank fraud. Nothing to do with Russia collusion, though. And former FBI lawyer Lisa Page says the Justice Department told agents not to charge Hillary Clinton. In some newly released transcripts from her closed-door testimony, Page said that the agency, including James Comey, thought that Clinton might have committed, quote, gross negligence. But she said, quote, the Justice Department's assessment was that it was both constitutionally vague. They did not actually feel that they could permissibly bring that charge. The Attorney General at the time, Loretta Lynch, previously said that she would accept the FBI's recommendation after meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton. Well, Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes are still flying in the U.S. despite bans from more than 30 airlines worldwide. Well, that type of plane, of course, crashed in Ethiopia over the weekend, killing 157 people, including 8 Americans. And this was the second deadly crash involving a 737 MAX 8 in months. A growing number of U.S. lawmakers are calling for federal regulators to take action, but the FAA is doubling down against a ban, saying this, quote, "Our review shows no systematic performance issues and provides no basis to order grounding the aircraft." Well, the European Union, China, and a range of other nations and airlines have shut down use of those jets as a precaution. A Boeing CEO assures the jetliners are safe, but pilots have reportedly been voicing some safety concerns of their own for months. And we will have much more on this with an expert coming up, so stay tuned. Now, the battle over President Trump's national emergency declaration coming to a head on Capitol Hill as a vote to end the national emergency is scheduled. And Democrats are demanding some answers on how the president's plan to pay for a wall impacts the military. Griff Jenkins is live for us in Washington with the very latest. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. Yeah, the clock is ticking on that vote, and Democrats, being led by Minority Whip Dick Durbin, are demanding Acting Defense Secretary Shanahan provide a list of the military projects it intends to defund to pay for the wall.
We think the Pentagon has to come clean with the winners and losers in this process. We estimate that the Pentagon will be forced to delay 20%, 1 out of 5, of the military construction projects in order to generate the $3.6 billion the president is asking for.
But as Vice President Pence took to the Hill to allay GOP senators' concerns, Armed Services Committee Chairman Jim Inhofe appeared confident.
There's a gray area where some money could be used and then replenished before the construction would begin. That'd be fine with me if it works out that way.
And while most Republicans are for a wall, enough of them are still against a national emergency declaration. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell acknowledging the senators have a lot to work through.
There's a lot of discomfort with the law. Not that the president doesn't have the authority to do what he is doing, but rather is this grant of authority to any president, not just this one, any president, was it too broad?
One senator, Mike Lee, opposed to the president's declaration's powers, is offering an alternative proposal to limit that power, saying it was Congress's fault for giving away the power in the first place in 1976. He writes, quote, "If we don't want our president acting like a king, we need to start taking back the legislative powers that allow him to do so." That vote would likely be after Congress returns from a recess, and it's unclear whether support for Lee's proposal would change the outcome of tomorrow's vote that is expected to block the president's declaration. Heather?
All right, so all eyes on tomorrow. Thank you so much, Griff. Great to have you with us. How about this? New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is fueling more speculation that he will run for president in 2020. The mayor is heading to New Hampshire this weekend. The trip comes weeks after he visited Iowa, of course, the first caucus state. Now, if de Blasio joins the crowded field of Democratic candidates, it will be an uphill battle. Take a look at this new poll. It was by the Des Moines Register, and it shows voters have virtually zero interest in him as president. Well, Joe Biden certainly sounds like he's running for president. Listen.
I appreciate the energy you showed when I got up here. Save it a little longer. I may need it in a few weeks.
Don't know about his energy there. Well, the former vice president, though, was speaking at this firefighters conference in Washington, wasted no time going after the president, suggesting that he is responsible for a shift in the country.
Extremism is on the rise in this country. Mean pettiness has overtaken our politics.
Well, now, in between teasing a White House run and taking swipes at President Trump, Biden told the crowd that Americans need to, quote, remember who we are. And former Clinton administration advisor Doug Schoen wants Democrats to do the same thing and remember what the party's values were before the far left takeover.
I think he's rusty, but there's also, with Joe Biden, Laura, let's be frank, a history of let's call it rustiness, inappropriate remarks, rambling. So, there's the not ready for prime time. This is maybe past prime time ready. Look, the Democrats need a moderate. The question is Joe Biden, at a time when the party is, as you say, more diverse, more oriented towards women and minorities, going to go for a man who'll be, I guess, 78 at the end of the campaign? Doesn't make a lot of sense, though we don't have anybody else, because the party, for me, has left moderates like Rendell and myself far behind.
Interesting. Well, Biden has reportedly told some people that he is running in 2020, but yet to make it official. Well, the time now is about 12 minutes after the top of the hour, and the FAA, as we told you, is facing growing pressure to ground Boeing jets after the deadly crash in Ethiopia. But does Boeing need to be held more accountable? And what about the FAA? Our next guest, an aviation analyst, says that there are several factors that are not being considered.
Why was the bank involved in the caging of children and financing the caging of children to begin with?
Some bizarre questioning there. And AOC banking on herself while grilling the CEO of Wells Fargo, the outrageous accusation and the stunned response. And friends first. Now, the FAA is doubling down on not banning Boeing's 737 MAX 8 planes from U.S. airspace. The agency saying, quote, "Our review shows no systemic performance issues and provides no basis to order grounding the aircraft." But with 2 fatal accidents from Boeing's jets and hundreds of lives lost, is the FAA doing enough to protect Americans in the air? Here now to weigh in is aviation analyst Mike Boyd. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it this morning.
Good morning.
A lot of folks have questions about this, especially, if they're about to get on an airplane. Let's take a look right now at all of the countries so far who are banning or suspending the Boeing 737 MAX 8. That's a lot of them. Australia, Austria, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, goes on from there. Why are we not on this list, and should we be?
Because we're doing it properly. The rest this is like a lynch mob. The fact is the FAA is right. There is no data out there. One of the things these people are missing is that in the United States and in Ethiopia, there's one big difference. The airlines themselves. Our airlines are safer. We have lots of data from the 3 airlines that operate the MAX, not just the MAX 8, but the MAX 9 as well, to show that that airplane in operation is operated by pilots that know what they're doing, they're well trained, they're well familiar with the airplane, and there is no systemic problem. I don't care what Mr. Romney says, I don't care what Congress says or what they say in Australia that operates none of these airplanes. There is no systemic reason to ground this airplane.
But you have 2 of the planes, 2 fatal crashes. What would you make the connection there then? You also mentioned the airlines. There's a list of about 42 different airlines right now who are also grounding the Boeing 737 MAX 8s.
They're running with the crowd. Take a look at Ethiopian, which is an outrage. And nobody wants to bring this up. Ethiopian admits that they had a co-pilot with 200 hours. That's a student pilot in the cockpit. I wouldn't trust that airline for safety to fly to the moon, let alone to take my family on. You take a look at Lion Air. That was a pariah. You got to look at more than just the airplane. How was the airplane maintained? How was the airplane managed? Take a look at the records of the 8 and 9 MAX airplane. And if you take a look at the U.S., we have those records. And the FAA has them. The rest of the world, it's all, it might be dangerous. We better ground it. I think the U.S. FAA right now is doing the right thing, despite world opinion.
This is the statement from Boeing on their safety record, since you mentioned that. And they say safety is Boeing's #1 priority. We have full confidence in the safety of the 737 MAX. The United States Federal Aviation Administration is not mandating any further action at this time. And based on the information currently available, we do not have any basis to issue new guidance to operators. How do you know when you're getting on a flight if you are on one of these planes?
You generally won't. It's a 737-800 series airplane with different engines. You probably don't. And frankly, if you're on a U.S. carrier like American or Southwest United, you're as safe as a hand-to-man can get there. So I think we need to deal with facts here, not innuendo or political nonsense like's going on in Congress.
Would you trust your family getting on board one of these planes right now?
On American, on any U.S. carrier operating a MAX airplane, yes, I would. But keep in mind, take a look at the carriers that are involved in these crashes. And we have to look at more than just the name of the airplane, but also the operator of it, how they were doing. We have no data whatsoever on the track record necessarily of the MAX operation at Ethiopian. Until we do, this is nothing more than a witch hunt.
All right. Well, let's hope there's not another fatal crash, and let's hope that you're correct. Mike Boyd, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.
My honor. Thank you.
All right. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour, and these raging flames not fierce enough to stop this guy. No way his desperate dash into this burning house to save one precious thing.
I have to be honest. We may have, well, he may have embellished, lied a bit on our application.
Oh, perhaps an unfortunate scene there. From Full House to the Big House, social media erupting after Aunt Becky's charged in that massive college scam. Uh-oh, Aunt Becky's in trouble. Jokes flooding social media after Full House star Lori Loughlin and Desperate Housewives star Felicity Huffman are charged in that massive college bribery case. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7 SiriusXM 115 is here with reaction. And of course, you knew it was going to be swift.
Oh, yes. The top trending topic on Twitter throughout the day. I mean, this is shocking.
It really is. Well, shocking to some people.
Yeah. But just the size, the scope of the scandal, how much money these people paid. Some people paying between $400 to, up to $6.5 million all to get their kid into a better college.
And these are big name schools.
Yeah. They are, all Yale in there, USC. So social media got pretty creative at the expense of the faces of this scandal, Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman. Take a look at this tweet from Josh, who says Aunt Becky's spinoff show is going to be so good. It's going to be called Big House instead of Full House. Carly on Twitter, she took she did a screen grab of Desperate Housewives, and it says, Huffman, are you asking for a bribe? Man, you pretending you're above that, Huffman. I'll get my checkbook. And then Lorraine, there's so much reaction about this too, says, you ought to be ashamed of themselves. Hardworking Americans are trying so hard to help their children to get an education. What kind of America is this? Another Twitter user says, typical Hollywood elite thinking they know better. Throw the book at them. And Karen says, about to start a GoFundMe for Aunt Becky's legal defense under the name Have Mercy. And Allison says, I need Brenda Strong narrating Felicity Huffman getting arrested.
Yeah.
I knew Have Mercy was going to be a part of this whole
was it Uncle
story.
Jesse?
That's right.
Yeah.
That was his catchphrase of the show.
But we should say, while they're well known and becoming the faces of the scandal, they're just one of, 33 different families that were involved in this.
33 parents were arrested, 50 people altogether.
Yeah, some highly placed CEOs, and so this is much, much more to come on this.
That's right.
Now, Rob Lowe, he tweeted out something. A lot of people feeling the same way that he is right
about
now.
His son. Take a look at this tweet that he posted yesterday. He said, very proud of my honest, hardworking sons. And he said that in response to a tweet by his son who said how hard he worked to get into college. Well, guess what? He got so much backlash for saying that he actually deleted the message.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Rhonda on Twitter said, I didn't read it as shade at others, just sticking up for his kids. Kathy tweets, my kids got into great schools the old-fashioned way. They studied. So a lot of people, like you said, very much, applauding their own children for doing what is expected of them.
Right, and that's one of the biggest, results of this case. You have kids that actually did work hard to get in these schools. Perhaps some of those kids, they'll be looking at them, well, did you really do it on your own?
And then, of course, some kids that worked hard and then didn't get into the schools because, the other parents were paying to have their students get in instead.
Right. And a disservice to those who were paid to get in as well. So, all right, thank you so much.
Very, very
much
messy.
more. Right. Yeah. Well, the time now is about 27 after the top of the hour, almost half past top of the hour. So it is the danger at the border that no one's talking about. Migrant children and the risk that they face traveling toward our country. And President Obama's former Border Patrol chief, Mark Morgan, says that those kids are being used as pawns. And he joins us live to explain. You don't want to miss this. Up next. And Jussie Smollett can't hide from the cameras at his big court hearing tomorrow. Why his lawyer says it's actually a good thing. Stay tuned. Or look at our top headlines for you this morning. Actress Lori Loughlin expected to turn herself in today, charged in that nationwide college admissions scam. Felicity Huffman also charged. FBI agents say that the stars are among 33 parents who allegedly paid millions of dollars to get their kids into elite colleges and universities. And Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes are still flying in the U.S. despite being banned from most international airspace. That model crashed in Ethiopia over the weekend, the second deadly crash in months. A growing number of U.S. lawmakers are calling for federal regulators to ground those planes. But the FAA says there's no basis for doing so. And today, Paul Manafort being sentenced again in D.C. President Trump's former campaign chairman facing up to a decade behind bars on conspiracy charges. He, of course, pleaded guilty but broke a plea deal with special counsel Robert Mueller. Last week, Manafort got nearly 4 years for tax and bank fraud. Well, now to a Fox News alert for you. A Georgia woman is charged, accused of supporting ISIS by helping spread kill lists targeting U.S. soldiers and members of the State Department. The Justice Department says that Kim Ong-bo recruited extremists and encouraged them to kill thousands of Americans. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison. And the U.S. and the Taliban drafting a deal following 2 weeks of talks. President Trump's top envoy to Afghanistan confirming that the U.S. and the terror group have reached an agreement on counterterrorism and troop withdrawal. And negotiations for a ceasefire and talks with the Afghan government, those are still in the works. President Trump has vowed to withdraw the 14,000 U.S. troops from the 18-year-long war. 18 years, man. Well, an illegal immigrant ICE tried to detain 9 times is charged with murder. Police in California say that 2 suspects stalked Bambi Larson before stabbing her to death. The El Salvador national had known gang ties and faced previous drug and burglary charges. He was released from jail twice just months before the murder. And Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez accuses the CEO of Wells Fargo of financing the caging of immigrant children. The bank executive adamantly denying those claims during this hearing on Capitol Hill. Listen to this.
Why was the bank involved in the caging of children and financing the caging of children to begin with?
I don't know how to answer that question because we weren't.
You were financing and involved in debt financing of CoreCivic and Geo Group, correct?
For a period of time, we were involved in financing one of the firms. We're not anymore. We weren't directly involved in that.
Well, the White House has repeatedly said the images showing migrant children in fenced-off detention rooms were taken during the Obama administration. Well, the situation at our southern border, it is now growing more urgent. Border agents in Yuma, Arizona, arresting nearly 750 illegal immigrants last weekend alone. But the Border Patrol chief under the Obama administration is sounding the alarm on a serious safety risk for migrant children that no one's talking about. Mark Morgan joins me now live. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very important issue.
You bet, Heather.
Let's take a look at these numbers as we begin our conversation. A 230% increase in family unit apprehensions at the Yuma sector. 36% increase in unaccompanied immigrant children apprehensions. Why aren't we hearing more about this? And, how significant is this problem and issue?
Well, Heather, first of all, thanks for shedding light on this issue because it is important. But the experts, they're not surprised, and they've been standing along with Congress for a while, and it's continuing to be ignored. Think about this. So what we have is broken asylum laws and judicial activism like the Flores case that just picks, hey, 20 days, and you have to let these individuals, family units and kids in the United States. What do you think that's doing to the cartels, the coyotes, and those individuals who want to come in the United States? Well, they know that their ticket into this country is simple and clear. Grab a kid, enter illegally, and you're allowed into the United States. Kids are being exploited every day, and it's just growing.
Compare the issue now versus, how big was the issue when you were there as part of the Obama administration, when you take a look at the numbers?
Well, if you look, so the change in demographics from being mainly Mexican adults to family units and kids started about 2014. But when I was there in 2016, we saw an increase in both family units and unaccompanied minors, Heather. I was calling it a crisis then. Congress on both sides of the House was calling it a crisis then. And it's only exponentially gotten worse. And the exploitation of kids is continuing to skyrocket as well. We have kids, information is coming to us that kids are actually coming across the border illegally, then they're sending them back to Mexico, aligning them up with another fake guardian to only come back again illegally. It's horrible. We've got to fix this.
You mentioned both sides of the aisle said that it was an emergency before. You hear these stories, you hear experts like you know what you're talking about, but then you have Democrats, some of those who did publicly say it was an emergency, Chuck Schumer being one of them, now saying it's not and just ignoring what the experts are saying. What are they doing and why?
So that's key, and I'm glad you said that. They're absolutely how they're dismissing the experts. And these same politicians that are dismissing the facts and the experts, they're also the same ones in 2006 that voted for the Secure Fence Act, which led to 654 miles of wall being built, and now they're calling it immoral, and they're still saying it's ineffective. So from a law enforcement perspective, knowing what I know and knowing what they said in the past, only one thing comes, and this is about their political ideology and protecting their political party rather than protecting this country, and it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I mean, if that was your child or if that was a child in your family, some of these Democrats, maybe they would think differently. Whole nother issue. Rape trees, they try to say that that's not a very real thing. It is a very real thing. We don't hear a lot about that either. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Let's hope something gets done about that. Please come back.
Thank you.
The time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. Elizabeth Warren walking a slippery slope.
The space around companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google is now referred to by venture capitalists as the kill zone.
Yeah, the 2020 presidential candidate blasting big tech firms that she took donations from, while our next guest says that she can't have it both ways, and where feeding the birds could soon land you behind bars. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. To Ohio now, where they get the green light to cut off funding for Planned Parenthood. A federal appeals court upholding an Ohio law barring state funding for health care providers that offer abortions. Planned Parenthood stands to lose $1.5 million from the state health department. Planned Parenthood is considering its next legal steps. And CNN hit with a whopping $275 million lawsuit. The attorneys for Covington Catholic student Nick Sandman accusing the network of vicious attacks on the 16-year-old seen in this viral video.
What CNN's tagline is facts first. And what we believe their reporting was in this circumstance was lies first, cover-up second. They did this without any reasonable investigation. They took something straight off Twitter that had been, in essence, manipulated so that it told one story, and they reported it as the truth.
Twitter manipulating something? Well, Sandman's attorneys are also suing the Washington Post for $250 million over the paper's coverage of the events at the March for Life rally in January in D.C. Well, the cameras will be on actor Jussie Smollett when he faces 16 felony charges in court tomorrow. A judge ruling to allow Empire Star's arraignment to be filmed in Chicago. Well, Smollett's legal team welcoming that decision, saying that they want the public to see what they call a lack of evidence. Smollett is accused, of course, of staging a hate crime and lying to police about it. Well, the time now is almost 15 minutes until the top of the hour. A teenager suspended for posting Bible verses around school. And now she's firing back after being accused of targeting a club she didn't even know existed. And you remember this debate that divided the internet?
So there's a restaurant in Philadelphia that's serving up cheesesteaks, but they've replaced the bread with pound cake. So is it a dessert or is it dinner? So many questions.
I was saying, oh no, but look, it is the moment of truth. We are going to find out if it's dinner or dessert up next.
Order!
Well, chaos in the UK after Parliament blocks Theresa May's Brexit deal for a second time. Parliament will vote again today, deciding whether the UK will leave without a deal or say goodbye at a later date. Benjamin Hall joins us now live in London with more. Good morning, Benjamin.
Good morning, Heather. And this was another heavy defeat for Theresa May and her idea of Brexit. And this one does really have big implications for the UK, but also for the US and the future relationship between the two countries. Today, Parliament will vote on what comes next. May's deal suffered a loss of 149 votes last night, a major rejection of her idea of the relationship moving forward. After the defeat, May put forward the remaining options.
Does it want to hold a second referendum? Does it want to leave with a deal but not this deal? These are unenviable choices. But thanks to the decision that the House has made this evening, they are choices that must now be faced.
The country and Parliament are now totally divided. The two options ahead on which they will now vote are either a short delay of Brexit, trying to seek another deal, or a no-deal Brexit. And that means a clean break in just 16 days with no deals in place, which some say would be an economic disaster, but which others are cheering. Supporters of a no-deal Brexit say it would bring the US and the UK closer together, allowing a wide-ranging free trade deal between the two countries, which could allow low-tariff access to the British market to US liquid natural gas, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and so much more. At the moment, access to the UK market is dictated by EU laws. A no-deal Brexit would mean the UK could do a direct deal with the US. President Trump has championed that, so have hard-deal Brexiteers. Today will be the vote where we see what happens next. Heather?
All right, Benjamin Hall, we will see. Thank you. Countdown is on. Well, let's talk about this big story happening here. Dozens facing charges in what prosecutors now call the largest college cheating scam ever prosecuted by the DOJ. Among those charged are actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, the television stars, accused of paying their kids' way into elite colleges. Here now to weigh in is the president of District Media Group, Beverly Hallberg. Beverly, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
So, we mentioned there in the intro, this is the largest college cheating scam ever prosecuted, not necessarily the first ever, maybe just the first caught. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, we're still going to be learning more, but definitely when the news broke yesterday, a lot of people were commenting on this from a variety of different angles. I think one of the things to point out on this is that these children of many Hollywood wealthy elite and also wealthy business owners are taking away spots that are deserved by other students. You even had it go so far as one child was claiming that he was disabled so that he could have help when he was taking an admissions test. So we are talking about when money speaks. In this, money is king when it came to the fraud that went on. And my hope is that we're hearing so far is that universities and colleges were not involved in this. We're talking about a few bad actors.
Yeah, I don't know how that's possible that, all the schools, or at least somebody at a very high level, didn't know this was going on. When you talk about, the students getting in on the case that they played certain sports that they never played, and some of the high schools they came from never even had those sports. It's crazy.
Yeah, you had one individual, one student who said that she was there because of crew, yet she's never played crew in her life. So my question then is, and you did have USC, University of Southern California, and Yale came out and said they were victims of this as well. But we do need to get to the bottom of that, because when you talk about how many families were involved in this is a widespread scandal among different schools. And so we do need some information to make sure that universities and colleges aren't being bribed by the money as well.
You talk about the students not being aware of it. Some of the social media posts to some of those students coming back to bite them. Listen to Olivia Jade. This was Lori Loughlin's daughter, what she had to say.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I do want the experience of game days, partying. I don't really care about school.
Ouch. She didn't care about the school, but her mom and dad apparently did enough to pay to get her in.
a pretty penny to get her in as well. They spent a decent amount of money. And so I also am not surprised to hear that this is what their daughter has said in the past, because I think if you know that your parents are bribing school officials to get you in, I don't think honesty and taking this seriously matters to those young people. So I wonder about these kids whose parents have been proven to be cheating the system. What does that do to them moving forward in life? So I think all around it's a sad story.
You know, spending
$500,000.
It is really insane. All right, well, we'll see what happens on this. Of course, they're becoming the faces of it, those two families, Huffman and Lori Loughlin, I should say, but 33 families involved so far. So we'll see where it goes. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
So is it dessert or dinner? The pound cake cheese steak that divided the internet is here. Joe's Steaks and Soda Shop brought these here from Philadelphia so we could get to the bottom of it. So the whole team is here because everyone wants to figure out what it is.
I'm so curious if this is good or not.
Who's taking a bite first?
What are we getting to the bottom?
What it is, it's
I think we're just eating it.
Yeah, pound cake in the place of bread, and then the cheese steak in between.
And this all came about because
I think this is for you, Julian, because I don't think it has
eating the pound cake right here.
The reason we're doing this is because this concoction went viral on social media. Heather, you and I covered it.
Yours.
And
I'm going to eat this.
Joe's Steak
and
Soda Shop is turning 70 years old this week.
So for their 70-year birthday, they decided to make this. So
they've been doing every month. So I was talking to them a couple minutes ago. Every month for the last, I believe it was 10 months.
We need a fork.
They have
knife and fork.
Sorry. They have been creating different concoctions. So one of them involved Philadelphia Tasty Cakes with cheesesteak. They've been coming up with different things. So this happens to be the latest that they've come up with. And this is the pound cake from Stock's Bakery, which is a well-known in Philadelphia.
You definitely get the salty and the sweet.
Only available, until the end of March. So rush over if you can.
2 days ago we had good food.
Because it's March's creation.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Not bad, Joe's.
No, very good.
Yeah, it's good.
So dinner and dessert in one serving. All right.
Yes.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Cheers.
I want to bite into it.
Thanks, Joe.
Welcome back. An Ohio student suspended for posting Bible verses in her high school after LGBT flags were displayed in hallways. The student says that she was punished, accused of targeting the school's Gay Straight Alliance Club. She says she didn't even know that club existed.
When I got sent to the office, he was talking to me and he said, "Why did you put these up here?" And I said, "Because I wanted to spread the word of God."
Well, the school's principal says she violated the code of conduct because she didn't get permission to post the Bible verses. But you may need to think twice before feeding birds in New York City. Yep, the Parks Department wants to outlaw feeding birds and squirrels, saying that it will help clean up parks. Critics call it cruel, though. If passed, violators could get anywhere from a $50 fine to a night behind bars. Tough. Well, now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we begin, as always, with the good. A man races past firefighters, risking his own life to save his family dog from his burning home in California. The man fights through the flames and the heavy smoke, emerging minutes later with his dog, Cabana. Both have suffered some minor injuries. They are expected to be okay. Good thing. Now the bad. Talk about messing with the wrong guy. Former bounty hunter catches suspected package thieves at his home in Las Vegas.
Trying to steal something? No. Get here.
Alex Mazzola pulling a gun on those suspects as they leave his home. Police arrested them about an hour later, finding several stolen packages in their stolen getaway car. And finally, the ugly. A flight forced to make a U-turn after a mother forgets her baby at the airport.
You are returning back to the gate?
أقول لك معنا one passenger. She left her baby in the terminal.
How does that happen? The pilot turning the Malaysia-bound flight back to a Saudi Arabia airport where the mother and child were reunited. Lucky he turned around. What in the world? Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Bye-bye.